Dr. Rouse, it's good to see you again.
Thank you so much. Same here. A pleasure.
You'll be monitoring the chat, Deborah, Debbie?
I will indeed.
Okay.
Would you prefer, Dr. Rouse, would you prefer me to wait until the end to forward or tell you of any queries or questions, or will you pause in between?
It will be wiser and better for me to present, and then you have your Q&A. So as I told Reverend Dr. Kwame York, if we start, whenever I'm starting, 30 to 35 minutes should be my presentation. Then we could invite listeners. And well, if they are a little hesitant or there's delay, I can go on if you so wish.
Okay, thank you for that.
Great.
So I'm ready when you are.
Good.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And a warm welcome to this Zoom session. The honor and privilege is mine to join each and every one of you in celebration of those among us with the knowledge, the wisdom, and the experience as elders in this society today. We at the Holy Saviour Parish in the Anglican Church in the Diocese of Trinidad and Tobago cherish our parishioners, all our parishioners. Today, it's about our valued elders who have and still assist in delivering God's wisdom to the younger ones. It is our duty to show them care and compassion and love as we protect them and give them hope at this challenging time. So let us pray. O God, make us have perpetual love and reverence for your holy name. For you never fail to help and govern those whom you have set upon the sure foundation of your loving kindness. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Heavenly Father, we give you all the praise and honor. We thank you for each day and all that you have provided for us. We thank you for this opportunity to be here on this forum with the technology that you have given us the wisdom to develop and use. Most merciful God, we ask you to pour your blessings upon each of us and a special anointing on your daughter, our presenter, Dr. Jennifer Rouse. Open her lips that she will speak only your word. Open our ears that we may hear them, and our hearts and minds that they may influence each of us to do your will in showing care, compassion, love, and protection for each other. These and all other mercies we pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We pray in thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, I hand you over to the master, what they call you, Mrs. of Ceremony, the lady who will be coordinating it all for us. Hand over to Ms. Sharon Wynn. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, viewers and listeners. And yes, as you heard the Reverend say, I am Sharon Wynn, and welcome to Celebrating Life, bringing comfort to the elderly during this pandemic. And of course, as you heard us say, it's presented by the Holy Saviour Anglican Parish in the Anglican Church in the Diocese of Trinidad and Tobago. But before we start, of course, we know it's very important, and it's a gentle reminder to remind you, please mute your mics during the presentation, and there will be a question and answer segment after the presentation. Now, these questions can be written in the chat or can be asked verbally. Now, Psalm 16 verse 11 says, "You show me the path of life. In your presence, there's fullness of joy. In your right hand are pleasures forevermore." Another very popular psalm, Psalm 118 verse 24 says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And we are going to be rejoicing. And this evening, or I should say this afternoon still, we will be discussing the celebration of life, bringing comfort to the elderly during this pandemic. And we have an experienced, knowledgeable, vibrant, and powerful lady to provide us this afternoon with a wealth of knowledge on celebrating life. She is the well-known Dr. Jennifer Rouse. Dr. Rouse is a Trini to the bone, as she would say. She is a gerontologist, and she has worked at the National Airline, better known as BWIA, for 20 years in the field of accounts. She took visa at 44 years and went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, where she completed her bachelor's degree with a double major in social work and Africana studies. She went on to do her master's degree in policy sciences with concentration in aging issues, followed by her doctorate in public policy and aging. Her doctoral thesis was entitled "A Case Study in Aging Policy in Trinidad and Tobago, the Role of Interest Groups in Defining New Policy Initiatives." In 2003, Dr. Rouse returned to Trinidad to assume duties as the region's and this country's first director in the Division of Aging in the former Ministry of Social Development. Dr. Rouse has represented the Trinidad and Tobago government in regional and global conferences, where she presented Trinidad and Tobago's country report to position aging on the national agenda. She's also a presenter in the Caribbean parenting digital show's new series, The Many Facets of Aging. I saw you. She seeks to promote a positive image of aging while fostering an enabling environment for a society for all ages. And I would like to welcome you, Dr. Rouse, and the floor is yours, as they say.
And a pleasant introduction couldn't be any warmer, couldn't be any sweeter, couldn't be any more exhilarating than the one I just got. And I thank you so much for that, Miss or Mrs. Wynn. And to the Honorable Dr. Reverend Kwabena York. It has been a pleasure. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve in this way. And I say, God has a way of not only choosing his vessels, but placing us in the right place at the right time. Because, so many of my colleagues and some who meet me on the street would say, "You're not supposed to retire. How you could retire? You're supposed to be working." But, when I look back, because I never regret wherever I am at whatever stage of my development, never, because each stage had lessons. And I said to myself, when I really look back at the role of director, in spite of all the programs that I was able to coordinate with the staff and the ministry at large, so much of my time had to be spent as a leader of a unit in staff matters. And, I would be like, "Oh, Lord, if somebody could just do this for me and could just do that for me and just free me. just free me, because all the people who know me locally, nationally, internationally, know me for my animation, the animated way in which I speak with all of me. And I have this passion and I have this drive that is innate from ever since I was a child. And so I felt as if, sometimes I would tell the PS, I say, PS, I ain't up, my pistons firing, but I ain't charging, the road is there, but I want to drive, and I'm being kept back. And, the PS would say, because we know it's funding, it's all different things that stymie in the operation. But now in retirement, which unfortunately for such a significant number of our retirees, they feel it is such a dreaded chapter in their life. And from even before entering it, they might have prepared financially and whatever, but they struggle with aloneness. They struggle with what it is to be in solitude, thinking that is borderline on depression. What is there beside work that they could really look forward each morning rather than just lay in bed and say, oh Lord, another day, And so the question was, how does one wake up in retirement to greet each day? What makes one continuously look forward to whatever that day brings without having a clue? You may have a little plan and say, I would like to, but we know when we get to the age of 60 and over, hey, man proposes, God disposes so many times. And you've come to make certain aphorisms and affirmations in your life saying, life is what happens between the plans. You could plan and plan and plan, even a day like today, and sometimes you roll your eyes and say, this is not possible. Another baptism of fire. But as we grow, and I want us to understand what growth entails. Growth is not just a smooth road and we skip merrily along and then, everything works according to what we want at the specific time in the specific way. That's not growth. And most times when we have that advantage of looking introspectively at ourselves, and we realize, I came through so many catharses. And what a catharsis is, the dictionary meaning of a catharsis is when it is a purging of one's emotions so that you get down into the belly, into the gut, as Jan Van Zandt, motivational speaker, used to say, that is when you're in the valley. Even a book was written by two female psychiatrists, psychotherapists. And the name of the book was The Right to Feel Bad. The Right to Feel Bad. And on further inspection, we recognize that in the Western way in which we were socialized and educated, did we get the tools, or if we have the tools, were we given that kind of calibrated guide as to how to use the tools? Because it's one thing to have the tools, but then how to use it, when to apply it, and more especially, when to recognize that there is something here that one can celebrate. And I've come through the fire. You hear it in some of the songs that we all naturally gravitate to. When we hear certain ballads and the lyrics sung, we say, wow, and you're going to that kind of swoon. And what I have learned over the years is that when you really listen to sometimes the pathos, the sadness of the singer that is doing it, or the impassioned singer, as Stevie Wonder or whoever could really get down into the lyrics of the tune, you recognize that this is something, it is like a thread that connects us. It is more an energy. Some people call it a chemistry of how the singer can actually draw you in. Or sometimes it's a musical piece and that violinist will close his or her eyes and take you to another space. We don't have to know music. We don't have to be a singer, but we connect. And what is it that draws us there? And when we start at that level of sensitivity and we really get into, without any force, we then start to question, wow, what just happened there? What just happened there? And sometimes some of us even break out in a kind of a sweat, not cold sweat, just a sweat, because of the intensity with which the singer was able to connect with the song. And those are the subtle energies that all of us know of, or those of us who love pan, I'm a pan lady, and you could hear the arrangement in your gut. And as I said recently at another presentation, what quantum physics is now telling us is that we have three brains. We have the mental brain, we have the heart brain, and we have the gut brain. And mostly people will feel, when you feel grief and you feel it there in the gut, there's no lie about that. And I remember when my brother was killed tragically in a vehicular accident. He was the first of my family to die. And he was at the hospital after the collision, and my father was called, but my mom was at home. And the news came from my father at about 2 o'clock that morning to say, well, he passed away. But when daddy came home with the news, my mom already knew. She already knew instinctively, intuitively, about an hour before, that he was dead, because daddy came about an hour after the actual point at which he passed. And she said, as his mother, she experienced, and now it's 9 of us, 9 children, but she experienced his labor pains. Now, how do you account for that? She, as the mother, she didn't mix up his labor pains with mine and some another sibling, but she was able to feel him and know that he is gone. So by the time daddy got home, she said, Ivan, I know, he has passed. We can't answer those things. And I'm saying all of this to pave the way, to put in context how, when you hear themes such as celebrate life, the moment you hear the word celebrate, you don't celebrate from a place of negation. You don't celebrate out of a place that is morose and sad and sorrowful. It is a place of positivity, and it is a place of joy. And when we could understand that our essence is joy, then celebration should come so naturally to us. But what happens through life and its growth spurts that we have to encounter, from moving from pubescence, from infancy, to pubescence, to adolescence, to adulthood, to senescence, which is the final stage, all of those, you no longer have an umbilical cord that you have to cut. It may be an invisible one. But in passing through all those stages until we reach to the golden years, as we call it, for some it is not one level playing field. It is not, because the diversity in which so many of our seniors experience aging is so intertwined, based on, because of, or sometimes in spite of, some of the hurdles and obstacles and all different things that they would have had to encounter that required a push or a pull for them to go into a place that they would have never expected. And sometimes it is so often that we use the analogy of the butterfly and the different stages it has to go through in metamorphosis. One being from the larva to the pupa. That's where it starts. It could be a larva in a drain, and then it goes to be with a pupa with a little harder shell, but anybody can mash it. And then it grows into the caterpillar. And I sometimes sit and I wonder, what would that conversation be like if the butterfly had to talk with the caterpillar, or between the caterpillar and the butterfly is the chrysalis. And the chrysalis looks almost dead. It's like a piece of twig that is just hanging in the breeze on a tree. And sometimes little children out of mischief will knock it off because it's so vulnerable. But inside that dead appearance is so much activity going on in making this butterfly that has to emerge with wings at the right time, at the right place, and survive. And I use that in other analogies in other places. But what would that conversation be like between the butterfly, the chrysalis, and the caterpillar? Because sometimes we are so intolerant of others and intolerant of what others' experiences are, whether lesser than who we think we are, or sometimes higher than where we think we are. And all these various comparisons that we tend to make before we can truly celebrate who I am. Bring it down to that individual in celebrating life. And in celebrating life, it doesn't only mean celebrating me, the individual, and my life. Because whether we would like to understand it or not, we as human beings are creatures of nature. And I use that in the context of, there are so many other creatures of nature. But the one thing that demarcates us from the others is that we have the intellect, where we can reason, where we can think, and which is very unique, we can actually witness our actions. We can actually witness what we are saying and say, but why I said that? Or when I finish my presentation, say, I could have told them da-dum. Why didn't I say da-dum? So we have within us, built in, a check, an editor that is able to say, is this the right time for you to mention it? I don't think so. And when I'm saying this from different times that I've had to speak, because I'm still adjusting to this virtual world. I draw on the energy of my audiences so that when I see them, feel them, I am able to dance with them and see it like a playground with us, because I can feel their energies. It is a bi-directional, a synergy. And so now with a virtual world, I can't hug you, I can't see you. Sometimes we have to use a raised hand to show that we're there. This is a whole new dimension. But yet the energy, if you really open yourself to listen, not just hear, but to listen and pick up that, and you will catch the charge of what is behind my words to say, we are all in this life, on this planet at the same time, and the time that we have is now. Saying that slowly, the late Martin Luther King said it, the urgency of the now. Now is all that we have, all that we have. What are we doing with this moment? Are we thinking of what if only? Neither one could be a reality of our nowness. What is gone is gone. And there are certain lessons that we might have missed, and certain things that we carry with us like a bolt around the ankle through life. And I will tell you, I like to speak of this story. All of this is in celebration, because if you have to celebrate and come from that center within you of joy, of positiveness, of passion, then if you're not there, which you will know, because I said you are your own witness, you will know that you are not there. And why are you so sad? Why are you always feeling so, oh Lord, another day? I wonder what she's gonna tell me that I don't know. And you look at your own posture and you feel so deflated and your life is just, oh Lord, just going along, and you're going along so that you could get along. We are powerhouses. I don't know how to say it again. And the paradox is that through the challenges, through the confrontation sometimes, which is a hard word, through the affronts that we get, sometimes expected, sometimes unexpected, that's where the growth is. Because the diamond, the gold, has to come through pressure, fire, heat. And if and when, because whoever is in my audience knows that the mere fact that we are here means we survived plenty to reach where we are. And as Oprah used to say before, wherever we are, wherever you are, that's the best me. That's the best version of me at this time. And I got a very interesting WhatsApp message 2 days ago from a colleague of mine. And this is it. For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, so we were all seeds, remember that? For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its inside comes out, and everything changes. So to someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction. But you're there. You're there. What is it inside that causes us to say, hey, there is more to this, there is more to me than meets the eye? Dig deep. Dig deep. How do you do that? How do you, is fear there? Because we have to, as creatures of nature, engage and interact, because we are gregarious and social beings. And we have to interact with the environment. And there's an expression in gerontology called environmental press. Press, they are short for pressure. And what they say for our seniors, there are social and physical demands that are made of us from the environment. It works both ways. If the pressures that come from that environment on our social and physical, in these social and physical demands are too gentle and kind of too soft, then there will be no major excitement. You will do whatever it is, and that's it. If, however, it is too much pressure and all requiring that change that the seed has to go through, then you get overwhelmed. And you might say, oh my God, this is too much. What are we talking about? Look at technology. How many of us, look at where we are. We had to learn Zoom, how to get on Zoom, whatever. And I find this fascinating, that all of this is part of the growth that we have to encounter and treat with, not try to pretend it doesn't exist. And there are some that are totally against and have these strong aversion. I don't need to learn this, not at my age. What is your age? What is your age? Age is a number. Age is a number. I had to call from Baltimore in Maryland to speak with my 91-year-old, he was at the time, father, who was in Gordon Home. And I had to speak with him from there when he said, no, 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 I don't want anybody to bath me. I said, but you are too frail now. You are also causing the caregiver. What if you fall in the bathroom? She's going to get implicated for not helping you. But he was always a very proud man. And that loss of independence that comes stealthily along as we age, loss of the eyesight, all of us are bespectacled, the hearing, eventually, the taste, the smell, all the senses. They don't go completely, but they change. And very slowly, you realize that it is not just overnight, but it is as sure as day goes into night that all these senses and all the activities that you are accustomed doing in your youth, in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, whether you want to or not, you cannot do it in the same way. And there are people, sometimes I ask students, because I lecture part-time in UE, at the start of the class, what brought you here? What did you come to learn? And I remember one student saying she is dreading getting old. She dreads old age. So every time she sees, she was, I think, in her 30s, I say, well, sweetheart, you have a long road ahead and you have to surrender to it. You have to accept it because you are moving into what is called your authentic self. We're trying to be this and trying to be that. And I say it, if we even stop for a minute and understand that of the 7.1 billion people who are on the planet right now, other creatures of nature called Homo sapiens, human beings, wise men, each of us is an original. There is none other in the 7.1 billion that is you. Whether even you are twin or not, there is nobody like you. Why is it, and this is a rhetorical question, do we spend all of these years of our lives trying to be a carbon copy of some other model? That is not us. Sometimes it is such a variance from who we are. And we spend, whether in cosmetics, you name it, we do it. Accents, height, size, place you live, we try to go as carbon copies of somebody. That is blasphemy as far as I'm concerned. Or how my granny used to say, flying in the face of the Lord. She was a Bajan. We are original. Bring it down again. The point at which conception was made is sometimes hundreds of thousands of spermatozoa or spermatozoa, plural, that have to connect and fertilize that egg. That egg, which has to be ready for what you call a synapse. It will only open like that and close. And even when it does that, and the sperm or more than one may get in, it has to be a healthy sperm that we hope will get in and not die, because they die shortly after. And that's the magic of producing a me and a you. Pure, scientific, we are made with everything. All the systems working, digestive, elimination system, endocrine system, nervous system, you name it. We are built with an immune system to protect us from all agents that are harmful and will do us any kind of harm. The skin, which is the longest organ in the body, is to protect us. That's why even when a baby is born, you're not supposed to bath them as soon as they are born. They're supposed to just lie naked as they are born on the mother, because by holding them there right after birth, there's a Latin term for it, but there's that cream-colored liquid that it becomes like a crust when the air comes on it. You don't need to wrap it even in a blanket, just the human to human. And that crust is to balance that 98.6 inside from anything outside. And some of us wipe it off, clean, and then bathe the baby, not knowing, just as the person who is seeing the butterfly squeezing out of the chrysalis with a tiny hole will say, oh Lord, look at suffering. And they get a little scissors and they give a little cut to the chrysalis so that the butterfly could come out more easily, not knowing you have now made the butterfly handicapped. Because it was that aperture that it had to squeeze through that would have strengthened the wings and kicked in the nervous energies into the butterfly's wings so that it could come out and just spread its wings and fly. And so some of us, in our attempts to help, we hinder. In our attempts to help, we hinder. Because there are some of us that need certain degrees of challenge, and I will say it in an easier way. This was done by Erik Erikson, who is well known as a psychoanalyst. And he said life gives us tasks. And to be able to master that and manage those tasks, we have to have confrontations or challenges. And when we look at how we have been educated and sometimes nurtured, we have been taught, whether indirectly or directly, how to avoid pain, how to prevent pain, how to tippy-toe around it and say, you know, this is not for me. Yes, it's for you. And you know what is the other part? Most times it is you yourself that brought it to you. If you look clearly enough, you might have set up all the things that would have caused that to happen. And we take no accountability, but live many of our adult lives in victim mode. Victim mode, only reporting on what others have done to me, not taking responsibility of what I may have done when I said, when I did, when I acted. That's not mentioned in the equation. And that kind of ownership, that's part of building now towards your own authentic self. Because you have to come to that point where you say clearly, whether it be the good, the bad, or the ugly, this is me, in whom I might be well pleased, but take responsibility for what I did that was stupid, that was silly, that was ill-timed, and I could deal with the consequences. And sometimes when recognizing when we are to grow, how we may have to grow, I sometimes use this analogy. For those of us who just live very protected, all to avoid aversion, avoid rejection, avoid challenge. You live this very myopic life, not going anywhere that may warrant risk. You try to avoid all of that. And you just live this very contented life, all in your own sum with those who immediately around you. And there was this story of the frogs that grew, they were born and grew in this barrel, big barrel. So their world was the circumference of the barrel. They were happy, because when rain falls, they have the water. When insects fly in, they have their food, and everybody is happy. They grow. They have more children. Everybody's hopping around in the barrel until one day, who comes on the rim of the barrel is a frog. Now they could see his reflection in the water down in their barrel, as well as see him, and that looking at themselves and looking at him, which is how they did it, they realized he looked like us. So clearly, The first question, who are you? Because to them, that has to be an anomaly, must be an anomaly. Something is wrong with the picture. And the one on the rim is looking at them in the barrel and saying, what you all doing down in there? Look at how many of you all down in there. No space. Why you all just come up here? Up here is abundance. You could hop anywhere. You could move anytime. You could eat how much, oh God, more fear. Because he is not, they're not wired to even conceive that such a place exists beyond the rim. And he's there wondering, wait a minute, what could I do to convince them that they can come here and meet me? So knowing how we know frogs are designed, he stretches over into the barrel. He said, listen, just jump and grab my hand and I'll pull you up. Oh Lord. Well, fear has stymied most of them. They're not even conceiving of jumping. So one little brave one, they must always have one. One little brave one say, but how you mean to jump? He said, but you were designed to jump. He said, but I can't reach so far. He said, hold up, look at your back leg. It's folded. You know why it's folded? That's the real length of your leg. But if you don't use it, guess what? What we say now, the muscle would atrophy. So even if he wanted to leap, the strength is not there because they never used it. So it begs us the question, when somebody who doesn't know you, another creature of nature like ourselves, because there are persons out there who can meet you and in an instant pick up what they feel could be your blind spot. You don't even know that is within you. And they say, hey, I'll watch you, you know, or there's the second time I'm meeting you. And I think you would be the best person for da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. And you are like, oh no, not me. And that's what happened to me when I was doing my studying, because everybody knows that I went to study when I was 44. That's when I now start. So when the professors told me from America, they don't know Trinidad. And when they were telling me, but you could do the PhD, I say, me? I say, I didn't come here. I didn't come here for this. And furthermore, I have no money. And you know how we have that long list of why we can't. I say, I have no money. I didn't come here for this. All I came for was to just do this bachelor's and go back home. They say, but forget the money. That was the first thing. Forget the money. There are ways and means you can get that through assistantship, but you have something to offer as an older student. You can do this. Now, had fear stymied me, or I was wondering, boy, I wonder, boy, if they mean doubt, which made Peter sink. There are times that that person will come on that rim and say, hey, jump, come with me. I know you could do this. And fear, false evidence appearing real, overcomes you if you are not developing that internal growth muscle to build resilience. Because resilience doesn't come from entitlement. Resilience comes through adversity. So if you are going to be growing and avoiding this and are not risking, I don't want to go to the sea at all, because you see that is not clean. Or I'm not driving on the highway, I'm not going for my license because you see the road too crazy. What's that? So the denial, the negation, the not risking, all of those attributes come out of fear. When you come out of the emotion of love, you are free. You do things with abandon and say, you know what? whatever. However it falls, I will go accordingly, or I will start again, or you know what? That wasn't for me at this time. I will hold. Because you are going into it with an openness that will make others now wonder, I wonder if Hannah, you see the job she just leave by? She just walk out of that job just so. All of that are the makings of a life that you designed, that you called into being. Because it was even in my father was 1991 and I'm calling him and talking with him. I was seeing his growth. I was hearing his growth because he was always a very strict disciplinarian. Who are you to tell me? You know when ego is there and the whole gender thing with the males. But he was able to listen and say, sometimes the student passes the teacher, and he said it in a mode of true understanding and respect, because we have to have fresh eyes when we truly want to celebrate life. To have fresh eyes, suspend judgment. Suspend judgment. God chooses his vessels. I'm telling you, he does. You do not know who is carrying what. Sometimes it's the missing piece you are looking for that will come your way in a person that you would never have looked at twice. And I'm not saying now this is a marriage and a love relationship. This is just somebody you might have met on a flight, sitting next to you, and you strike up a conversation. And there's clearly a chemistry. And when the flight lands and you all go your respective, you may never see that person again in life. But for that moment in time, that was what you needed. So we come back to the theme. How do we truly celebrate life? So we spoke of how we came on the planet, our originality. So we are creative in that alone, just from that originality. And then you see, and the family you are with, and how you converse, and all the different guides that come your way to say why you have to do things in a particular way. You get it from the family, you get it from the school, you get it from the church, from the community, from the society, from the government. All of these feed into you. But what tends to happen when you start going through the ages of 40 and 45? You start to question, this is all life has? This is, I mean, after all that I study and did this and worked so many years, this is what it comes down to? And these are some of the existential questions that we all have to ask. This is nothing to do now with money. This is you on you. What are your interests? And the conversation that you begin having with yourself in celebrating where you are. You say, how do I stay positive? You give yourself these little tasks. How do I stay positive in one day? We are in a pandemic. And I have grown to love this little microbe. I have loved the reason behind this little microbe that defied all our senses. We can't see it, we can't smell it, we can't hear it, we can't touch it, we cannot taste it. This little microbe has come to reset. And I will stop here to allow questions because I just glanced at the clock. This reset means that we have to check in, stop. Because right now he made all the essential, non-essential, he made non-essential, essential, and everybody, the whole script has been flipped. But we hear, how do we deal with celebrating life in a pandemic where you are forced to deal with solitude sometimes, aloneness sometimes, and all these little beings as if they're in your head conversing. Some are in depression because they have never been forced or to have aloneness so imposed on them for this long period of time. Some are now getting to know their little idiosyncrasies of what they can't deal with and what they can't handle, and oh Lord, like they're going crazy. And especially having a catchment as a church and the religion, they can't even attend that. What do? And they are at a loss for answers. So they are just in that void. Some call it the bubble. Some call it all different names or in a zone. But this is now you on you and looking at the whole scenario. And as Dr. Reverend York, Kwame York she would know in her field. There are so many couples now that realize they're not really friends. They're not really friends. And there's no conversation in this house with just the two of them. No conversation. TV, sleep, eat, TV, sleep. Chemistry, what's going on? What's going on? To reach to this point of having to celebrate. Or as young people would say, but all these years I know you, I'll now make you out. And now make you out. Who is the real you? Because when everything is smooth sailing, that's not you, you know. It's when the things go anti or awry, and you start seeing who you thought was a very cool, never heard them shout, never raised their voice, you're now hearing a violent. And you don't know where that came from. What's going on? So I will stick a pin and ask if there are any questions.
I am seeing in the
Chat.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I am seeing in the chat a question. In order to check in, you have to find, understand, and appreciate self first.
And that is from Hazel Elcock Eiffel. Hit the nail on the head. Who am I? Who am I? Who is this being? You have to find, understand, and love self first. You cannot give what you don't have. And there's so many of us busy running around, helping this one, helping that one, because of trying not to be still, trying not to reflect. They have to keep busy all the time so that they can avoid the silence, the quiet of that internal or inner conversation that is so critical in understanding who you are, how I came to be, why I was born in this particular family, how I came to live where I live, what was the relations with the siblings, or there are some who didn't have a sibling, they were the only child. And all of that is the different dynamics that we have to feel, but it is spot on. And in checking in, those are the questions that we have to check. We have to open ourselves to be challenged. And so many of us are so closed that we fear being questioned about how we do, what we do, and we prefer to just not mix and mingle. We will stay alone to avoid, not understanding that we are denying ourselves so many opportunities to be where that frog on the rim said, where there is so much abundance. And we don't know that we don't know.
Yes, and there's another question, and it is all in context of celebrating life.
Yes.
And they say, how do we encourage and at the same time protect our elders at this time of pandemic?
And remember, our elders, especially those who are over 85, they are accustomed to senior, pensioner. You sit down and chat with them, asking how they're going. In other words, a conversation, because that's the ethos they came out of. And now to be telling them on a phone, because not all of them exposed to computer, and you have to now hold the phone and show them the grandchildren or speak to them virtually. But we have to do it because we don't know the timeline for this pandemic, how long we would be in this particular state of being. So it is almost as if this is a period of connecting, because the irony is with all the connectivity that we have, we disconnected, you know. With all the various genres of connectivity, we have grown further and further apart. And so this now has caused us to be now more innovative, to be close in separation. In physical separation, we have to learn ways of being close. The only world we have now is this virtual one. Through the telephone, checking in with grandma, or in some cases, our adult people who are in their 60s still have their parents alive. So we have to, it's a mixture of informing them of what is going on, because as I'll tell you, some of them are genuinely in a state of confusion. They're not understanding really the depth of what is happening in their environment. And everything came so suddenly that it is a first for all of us of experiencing what a pandemic is. How do you move? Because a pandemic is a natural disaster, whether we like it or not. It is a natural disaster. And so we are learning on the fly of how do we keep calm? Because one of the questions I even asked myself, how do you get to the eye of the storm, which is another natural disaster? Because the eye of the storm and the eye of the hurricane is still. So if you remain in the swirl, you will feel battered and bashed and banged about with no traction to hold on to. And that, I believe, is causing a lot of anxiety, because in the not understanding and the level of ignorance that is out there, some of us are just so confused. And some people, when they are, and we haven't even touched on those who lost some of their relatives and could not make closure in the normal cultural way we are doing, where we could have visited them in the hospital, total isolation. And we have to study those two who had to be, it's only 5 in the funeral. And how do you feel that sense of closure, that sense of kinship? Because it's not only the older person that might have died, but also the one that remains. And some are burying their children. These are real losses. And I'm telling you from experience, because those are the calls that I'm getting while I'm home. Dr. Rouse, how do you treat with this? How do you deal with this? Because this is causing sometimes even abuse in some of the homes with the elderly, because of how the persons in the household are already stressed because they're doing homeschooling and they have more in a confined space without letting up and having somebody go out for part of the day and whatever. We all in a space. And so then if you have one, especially an elder who might be in early dementia or moving in that way of forgetfulness, which is another symptom of diabetes too, don't forget, don't mix the two. And they may be asking you asking you questions over and over. And you now under stress and irritated and irritable, could bawl, could shout, could get impatient in your trying to handle all that is in front of you. Because we still have, because of the extended life expectancy in our seniors, we still have people who are in that age group 55 to like 70, who still have their parents alive, who are in their 90s, and centenarians who they still have to care for. So, and for their own dependence. So they are what you call the sandwich generation. They are caught in the middle of juggling energies in both fields. Because if you go by your parents, you have to leave whatever by the gate or by the door. You can't go in. And then you have to coordinate now the children at home who are not accustomed being so confined for so long. It's a lot of conflicting energies that could trip you. And then you find that part of yourself to say, but this feels so strange to me to be this way. Where with all those courses I did in emotional intelligence, where did it go? Well, this is your crucible. This is your laboratory. This is where you practice. Because you must have situations that will arise to test what you believe you have mastered or you have learned. Let's see if it's I'm seeing in the chat here, we have
Karen Gordner Critchlow is asking, how does one recognize the signs that an elderly loved one is not coping well with the challenges of the pandemic?
Straight up, personality shift. If you know that your elderly person is a joyful chatterbox, interested in her little comedies on the TV or looking at her Jeopardy, and all of a sudden she just wants to stay in her room. No interaction, no wanting to even get up on a morning. And you see, with the elderly especially, that has such debilitating effects, because it affects even their bowel movement. Some of them get constipated. And you who may be so caught up in your activities didn't realize, wait a minute, they didn't do a bowel movement for the day. Or even if it's not twice or three times, but at least once. Or did I remember if they showered, especially if this is an independent elderly person who you know will go have the shower, say their prayers, come and prepare lunch for themselves, and suddenly they have no interest in anything. That is a clear indicator that something is awry. And if even you offer to help or do something and they keep telling you, no, that's okay, almost as if you're like an imposition, those are the early signs. And it is hard on you to witness it because they just have a total 360-degree sea change in their behavior.
Yes.
Another one is from Alison.
Yes. Alison, how do I help my elders, my mother in her 90s, go through these challenging times happily? What can I do to help without stressing myself out?
Now, what is a possible way? And it could work. You take time out from your schedule and you strike up or initiate is the better word, a little conversation. Say, Mom, how old you were? Where were you when the last pandemic? I know you're younger than 19, 18 was the last one. But like, what life was like, especially if you, and as she says, this is somebody in the 90s. So they would, if even they didn't experience 1918 when they were born, they would have been children. You using this very same topic could initiate a discussion and say, Mom or Dad, where were you? What was going on in the house? How you all make out, boy? And little would you know, they would, and I must say this, when you are in the oldest old group, that is those who are over 85, their long-term memory is sharper than their short-term. So they may not remember what they had for breakfast that morning. But when you take them back it is like graphic. They could tell you the classroom, the teacher, who was sitting next to them, the little idiot, who was the mischievous one, what they used to do in detail. Now there's the oral history. Now what would have happened there without you intending, you might have thought in going to help your mom, you would end up also being transformed, because it goes both ways. Because when she, as they say, knock and that door will be opened. When she begins to give you the oral history of how they made it through, how they managed, what was school like, did she miss days, did they have to stay home? Because they came out of that ethos of a lot of scarcity. And she begins to tell you and paint the national mood of the place at the time. You now might be the one that the joke is on and say, are you for real? So then, as my younger staff would ask, so here now, 9 of you all live with one toilet and bath? I say, and the bath was in the yard. Don't forget that part. And there was never a fight. Because you know why? Built into that, making sure that you have your bath, there was order. You had to know when to get up because you dare not be late for school. So in order to get up, guess what? You had to know when to go to sleep from the night before. So I didn't know what night was like after 9 o'clock because it was a rule. You had to go to sleep so that you could wake at a certain hour and line up for your bath or shower, in the yard. Not hot, and the staff even asked me, so no hot and cold? I say, well, maybe if you want to boil a little saucepan of water, fill a bucket and bathe, yeah, but nothing coming from the shower to you. They would be like, uh-oh. That is like, I say, yeah, no, it's another century, but it wasn't so long because we still feel youthful enough. But those were the austerities, and the joke is, which I will end my question, the joke is we didn't even know it was adverse and austere and austerities. We saw all as fun. All as fun. Amazing. Next question.
Okay, let's see.
Karen Cordner.
But I guess she asked this linked with what she had asked before. Can you suggest ways to assist the elderly in assisted living setting to celebrate life?
Sure, in an assisted living facility, which is just for the benefit of the listeners, that is a facility, because I worked at one in Maryland, and that's where older persons live in an independent, in a communal setting, but they live independently. And to break that down, there is one that is in Santa Cruz called the Villa. And what they do, they have some rooms that are single and no toilet and bath. And they may have a half door. Those are for the ones who have early dementia, and that if they leave their room, they may not find their way back to their room. So they could instead of being locked into a room all day, they can open the top part of their door, hang over the door and chat with all the others, which is what they do. So they have some rooms that are designed for that. Another room, which is like Jack and Jill, where 2 rooms share the common toilet and bath. And then you have suites that are made for elderly couples. And those rooms are furnished and you can bring in your stuff if you wish. So what they do is, they in an assisted living setting, they have a huge common area, which is we would call our living room or our dining room, but different in that setting. It is a wide space because remember, you don't want your elders falling. The floor is non-skid, but all your tables and chairs have rounded edges so that they wouldn't bounce anywhere, and their bones are very brittle and fragile. And then you have, it must be very well ventilated and aerated. So you have louvers all around. And what was clever is that even when they have the burglar proof on the inside, they designed it that when the louvers are opened, it will be in the same line with the burglar proof, so they don't feel like they're in a cage, you know, so they get breeze all the time. And fortunately for the one here in Santa Cruz is next door to the fire service. So the firemen come over and chat with them, so that when you have to assist them, and the firemen would also be engaged in the pandemic now, but it is always good in that assisted living setting that the caregivers themselves have what you call, the one I worked at, we used to have a discussion with them. Like after lunch, don't just let them go back to their room and sleep. That's too kind of, because what I think a lot of homes miss, and I see it in some of the homes here, they don't pay as much attention to social care. Not giving them the tablets and making sure they sleep and rest. Social care means you must bring in a little band or a pianist, have a piano, make some music, and music that they know, not the music they can identify with. So the one I worked at, the whole band, all the band members were over like 75, and they play the music for them, or you bring in a CD of their music. Sometimes what they would have is a DVD of a film that is from their black and white era even. And you show the film and then ask them to have a little discussion on it after. But it is all about engaging them. And what was always fascinating was when you sit and ask some of them, if you had to live it all over again, what would you do differently? It is amazing, amazing when you hear their stories of where they saw themselves, because they were like in World War I or World War II. And what was common to all of them, they would all want to be educated. All of them said it. Because in their day, especially the women, they just had to sign their name with a fingerprint, because women were not allowed to just go and do university and all these things. It was fascinating. So those are some of the suggestions in an assisted living setting. The caregivers, because relatives are not allowed to visit now because of the pandemic, but the caregivers can engage them and learn themselves from the stories of the residents.
And yes, the questions have started to come in. You know what is going to happen.
Neville is already after 6. I told you all.
Neville Navarro. How would you define the term age as a mindset?
Age is a mindset. Age is a number. In the sense that when you have those moments and you begin to realize, especially in retirement more so, that you can self-talk. You're not going crazy. Sometimes you're just sitting and you're reminiscing some jokes. I mean, that is what keeps me buoyed. Everybody, they would stop and I Rouse, how you is doing, boy? But there are so many I don't think there's any place other besides Trinidad where you have the amount of humor. We make humor of everything.
Everything,
including the pandemic, of course, and a cold or a virus, we make fun. And if we could reach that place where you see life as a play, Valentino sang it, life is a stage. We are the actors. I even told somebody that recently when she sent me a WhatsApp, she said, girl, I am so mentally tired of all the negative and the divisiveness. I say, listen, here's what life does to you. For those of us who want to practice compassion, empathy, you must have sufferers. Now they will find me cries at times. That's how the play is a play. So for the sufferers, as Stalin referred to them, they give you the opportunity to assist, to help, compassion, to tug at certain parts of you that you may not even know you had, was so dormant because you're just tripping along your own way. Also, and this is coming back to Erickson challenges, is not just a smooth, bumpy road. For you to build that resilience, to overcome your biases, that's the word. Because we don't even know we are carrying certain biases until a man who you would not know from Adam, especially in this time where we just fearful of everything, you can't shut down. And there's this one lone man coming down the road. You don't know he's a mechanic, but he could fix the car. And he may offer and say, ma'am, can I? You say, no, it's okay, because you scared stiff. He's not going to do you anything. But your fear, your insecurities, your everything, and you don't even want to take a risk and say, well, let's practice social distance. You go on aside and say, you know what to do? And he say, yeah, I was a mechanic. But you see, the thing about it is, and this is what we have to understand with the three brains, what you're supposed to have been developing over time until you become a true elder is intuition. Where you hear old people say, I feel it, my skin ain't take you. They're really hearing you with the skin. They could pick you up. They could know you're fake. They could know when you cut. But I give the joke the other day, even when your daughter or granddaughter get pregnant, the old lady would say, I was watching, because she ain't walking the same way. They would tell you off right, and everybody laugh and say, where you going? She ain't even have a boyfriend. Oh, yeah? And the old lady would say nothing more until you just see a little plum start growing, and you see everybody say, you remember she told you all? There is an intuitive sense that develops as you get old. I know it because I'm living it. I'm living it and I know it. And it is almost like a barometer, because you must remember, you are not in a convent, you are not in a protected space. We have to engage. We have to navigate a land. I call it sometimes a wasteland. But how do you know when to say, Is the little voice, the still small voice that says, Rouse? Nah, don't go there. Forget that. Don't go there today. Go soon. Go on back. It tells you, but guess what? With the conundrum that going on in your psyche, you just say, nah, man, after I buy my dress and I done do all my manicure and pedicure and I supposed to go to this thing, I go in, man, rain or no rain. And then you see what happens. And only after you say, oh, Jesus, twice I get the sign that I shouldn't go. And I just say, nah, I go in. And that's when sometimes we have to move out of our own way and listen. It's an intuitive sense. And you will know when to tell that man, okay, well, see what you could do. And then when you allow him, and he just tell you, okay, start, bounce your starter, car begin, and you thank him. But he will know from your reaction that you may not have trusted him, which is fight and flight. But how do you know when it's the right time? And those are the things that aging, no book teaches you that. You have to grow into it. Yes,
and Saviour Parish Philip says, people say they have no time to pray. Now, this pandemic has made time to pray and interact with our loved ones. If people have lost their jobs and cannot get help or support at this, they would really go mad. Now they cannot take care of themselves, much less for anybody. It's extremely hard. She was making a comment there.
Yes. And you see, these are, some people call them teachable moments. Some it's learning moments. And you have to quiet the noise, because sometimes everybody has an idea, an opinion, and they want to tell you that their idea, their opinion is the one that you should be exercising. But until you get, and where sometimes is the best place to think and listen and hear your toilet seat, some people call it the throne. Sometimes that is the most quiet place in the house, and that nobody will invade. And you sit, put down the lid and you sit. It only requires 10 minutes. Bring it down. Quiet the noise so that you could hear your thoughts. Because if two fast vehicles pass one another, there will just be a blur. One has to stand still to see the other move. For you to see the movement, one has to stand still. If both of you are moving at the same speed, it's a blur. So therefore, you getting caught up in the stressful, hard environment, you have to find that place of quiet, of peace within you. Bring it down. Sometimes you have to do it with a hot cup of tea. Sip it, sip it. The hotter, the better. And this is what I should tell a lot of people too. This is not a time for just filling the body, which is your temple, with all manner of painkillers, steroids. Well, we ain't even talking opioids. You have to have the desire to heal. You have the desire to be well. You have to have the desire to be better than where I am. That's where you have to start. Just reacting, you're not gonna cut it. You're not gonna cut it. I'm speaking from experience. You have to self-talk and say, you know what, this experience I'm going through, just as she said, this is hard. Okay. And you're asking yourself, how do I begin to treat with this? Because you may not have realized that you were carrying everybody in that household with you or in the workplace. You were carrying everybody, and everybody is reacting to everybody's action, and all become now a whole barrel of stress. Nothing gonna happen. And you see, once we understand that beside being, okay, the creatures of nature, we are energy beings. So we feed off of each other's energies. So when all these energies crowd a space, it's like the place is on fire. And this is where the depression is causing people to fight who never fought before, the cursing who never cursed before. Stop. You have to stop. There are ways and means of calming. Some of you may have to sit on your own step. As I told you, some in your toilet on the toilet bowl. But if you have to take anything, some if you don't have a herb tea or a moringa leaf to boil or something. Because somebody called me this week and was asking about sleep. That their older parent, they weren't sleeping because of the amount of anxiety. And I say, if you have young pawpaw leaf, young guava leaves, hibiscus flowers, boil a little saucepan of water or kettle that is enough for maybe 2 cupfuls. You could put a piece of garlic in it because that is to bring the pressure down. Because you're doing things to regulate the system. And when the water is boiled, don't be boiling it with the leaves in it. And of course, these are separate teas. So if it is the pawpaw leaf, the young pawpaw leaf, you put that in the hot boiled water to steep with a piece of garlic. And as hot as possible, you sip that. If it is too bland for you, you could put a little teaspoon of honey. But the plainer, the better. Either guava, either pawpaw, either moringa, and your garlic. And you just feel, now you know, what a lot of people don't know. When you're feeling hot, whether from stress or the heat in the weather, you drink a hot cup of tea, not a cold drink. You drink a hot cup of tea because it sends the message to the brain, the body is heating up, it needs to cool. So the body breaks out in a sweat, and that sweat is to cool the whole receptacle. That's how it's done. Secondly, the main thing is your breathing. Look at what happens when you lose your temper and very angry, when you're under stress, when you're anxious. Your breathing changes. Your breathing becomes short and you're only breathing from here. When you're only breathing from here, you're not taking in any oxygen, you know. You have to consciously go in a space where you can breathe. I don't mean air that is in an air-conditioned room that's circulating. You need air coming in. And you take deep diaphragm breaths. These are what all the athletes take. Anybody into sport will tell you. When you inhale, you send that air down into your gut so that you don't inhale and swell your chest. Nothing going in there. That's all. You send the air down into your stomach and put your hand on your stomach, and you will push your stomach out as if you're pushing your hand away from it. And when you inhale that oxygen and push your stomach out and hold it for the count of 5 or 6, then when you exhale, you breathe out either through the mouth or through the nostrils, and feel your hand going right down as if you're pulling your back, your stomach into your back. If you do 3 of those, I give you just the basic minimum. This is what I used to teach, and I am doing it now again, because every time I go to do my exercise in the yard, rain start, and don't set yourself a condition that, oh Lord, just when I was going to do the exercise, hello, go in your drawing room. Don't give yourself any excuse why you're not going to do it. Make do with what you have. So I'm doing mine inside because it rains nearly every morning here now. But those diaphragm breaths, I am telling you, they work like a charm, because your gut is the battery of your body. So when you want to energize, you go there. And when you want to calm down, you also go there. And you just start holding that breath, that in-breath for the count of 3 or 5, and then exhaling. After a while, that muscle in the gut forms like a lining inside, so that's why in karate, when they hit you and they hit at that gut area, that is your very weak, vulnerable area. So you wouldn't know just by doing those diaphragm breaths, you are strengthening that muscle so that you could take on any amount of grief or stress, and it wouldn't resonate the same way, because you have now emboldened your body, your frame. This is your instrument. It could do marvelous things. Practice.
And yes, what I'm saying is, sorry, you're going to say something?
I just saw Trevor Allen's comment that meditation could be important, Trevor. It is mandatory, because meditation is the one. Some people do it through prayer. Prayer, meditation, silence, where you can just stay still. You will be amazed in trying to quiet this mind that is like a set of wild horses, to just be quiet. You will start remembering things you did in the office since last year or last week or 2 days ago. Nothing to do with your desire to just be quiet. And you could repeat that. Just be still and know that I am quietly. But give yourself that opportunity.
I saw Yvette.
Yeah.
All right, Yvette, I know everybody from what I've seen, a lot of people have comments, but Yvette said you described the meaning of fear and asked if you can repeat it.
Oh, the acronym FEAR is false evidence appearing real. It's like you going out in your yard and you see a rope. It's a rope, but you go and pelting back inside because you see a snake. You never thought, I wonder. You didn't turn on a light. You didn't do it. You just see the rope and say it's a snake, and you don't like to say, so back inside. Until next morning, when you do come out, and the rope is right where it was all the time. And that's the example that is often used for fear. That when you challenge your fear, that is when you really begin to build on the internal muscle that you can face situations from anywhere.
Done with myself, right. As I said, we had Hazel Elcock Eiffel. She said, yes, engaging them, well, this of course has to do with the seniors. Engaging them on things or memories from their era always brings out a smile and the tapping of the feet.
Definitely, yes. And for the seniors who are listening, understand You are holders of history. You are repositories of wisdom. And as one author put it, keepers of the meaning. Holders of history, repositories of wisdom, keepers of the meaning. And when you go to, like my father, he was speak when spoken to, answer when called. He not just talk all the time. You have to speak when spoken to. When you go to him, he will pull out the scroll and he'll just tell you from memory. Liquid history, oral history. And that's how our ancestors did it. And that's why I don't call anyone illiterate. They may be functionally literate, be able to recognize things, but no one is illiterate. Because you could go to a farmer from deep, deep country and he could tell you immediately, as I learned the other day from what I thought was a okra tree in my yard. And I was like, whoa, look at my okra tree. If you see the leaves, how big and lush because rain falling. As Willie comes in, who helps me with my garden, as Willie reached, Willie said, Miss Jenny, where you going with a castor oil tree in your yard? I said, what castor oil tree? I said, that's my okra tree. He said, Miss Lady, that will lift up your whole house because they grow with long roots and they have leaves that big and look like the okra. Willie ain't go to no university, or as the Rasta would say, the UC Vernity, but he knows as soon as he saw it, no, Miss Lady, I have to dig it up now because if you saw me, if I was mulching all around them because they got the beer, he said the tree would have been twice the height of my house. As you go along, you have to be open to listen to those who know. And the wise man is he who knows not. He knows that he doesn't know, and he will ask. And that's how you have to stay with that openness.
Yeah, and so as I said, we had a lot of comments. Trevor Allen says the mindset has to be positive. That is not to be afraid of keeping abreast of things, even if you're not engaging in them, but knowing.
Precisely.
And Glenn, and Glenda St. Louis Otley, one had to learn to adjust to the pandemic. It is easier for the introvert to manage isolation, solitude, but the extrovert has to make a number of adjustments.
Definitely. Because, and again, whenever I mention to my audiences that I am an introvert, they would be like, Rouse, please. Because they don't realize that they have a profile in their mindset of what an introvert is. Because when you hear the word, you think it's somebody that has eyes down all the time, mute, very shy, has nothing to say, goes everywhere alone, goes back home alone. That's not my life. I love my solitude. Love when I turn that door and open and there's just peace. But once I'm out there, and if I leave to go to a party, or if I leave, I am leaving when the DJ take out the chord from the music, I dancing to whether I have somebody to dance with or not, I love dancing. But it doesn't mean I have to fit every week, people. Moderation is good for the soul. When I laugh, I don't have to study, oh Lord, I shouldn't have laughed. It comes from my heart that when I laugh, I laugh. Because when you understand, when you have experienced enough pain, enough loss, and when I use the word enough according to your measure, because there are people who will take suffering and take almost like a martyr. That is not healthy. You have to know your limit when you know what? Enough. Cut off. And I will say this again, which I said recently, I think on another TV program. The elders who are over 80 and 90, do not allow them to be watching all the things on COVID that going wrong and going right until all midnight. No, cut off. because I have 3 sisters who are octogenarians. They're in the 80s, and that's what happened to them. Because this thing was so new, nobody knew what it was about. So they want to get all the information, and they're viewing every channel, CNN, MSN, ABC, everything. And they could tell you, listen what Dr. Fung. And when time to sleep, nobody could sleep until one went to her doctor because she was feeling the panic in her. And the doctor said, overload. There is such a thing as overload of your circuit, and you have to know when to cut off and just look outside, go in your garden, go in your yard, walk in your backyard. You're not breaking any curfew doing that. Bend down and make sure you can touch your toes still. Do little exercise. Exercise is another thing that is vital because the body was designed for activity. When you hold a skeleton, it shakes all the time. It was designed to move. So when you remain sedentary for endless hours, guess what? When you don't use it, the muscles atrophy. And then now you have to start now pressing down on everything or having a cane or whatever. And all you have to do is to start walking. You don't need a gym. None of these things works. And especially now. And I know we have to wrap up because you see how the time going there. And this is why I'm sure the Reverend Kwamina York said, she already set me up. She said, no, we haven't more than one series of this, you know.
Yeah, Christian people already suggesting it.
Anglican. But I just want you all to know, this immune system, I want you all, and I want to close with this. Boost, 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 boost your immune system, please. The body has its natural antibodies that fight off agents that could harm it, but that are foreign, any agent, good or bad, because there are some that are good viruses or good bacteria that could stay in the system. You all know enough when you're looking at the COVID press conferences. But we all collectively have a personal responsibility to boost, because what happens as you're getting older, especially over 60, all of our systems slow down, including the immune system. So it is not generating the amount of protein, the amount of amino acids, the amount of whatever the body needs to keep it. Because you all have to understand, because I recently attended a webinar that was showing all the different systems. Listen to me. The body was so clearly and cleverly designed to offset everything that could harm it. But as we are older now, we have to know how to now support it and boost it. Nearly everybody yard in St. James have a moringa tree. Listen, the qualities of the moringa, there is no part of the moringa tree that's supposed to be thrown away, from the bark to the leaves to the branches. You name it, you can do anything with that. That is the moringa. Because I am taking that now as a herbal mixture with, I think, pine seeds, in capsule form sometimes, but in herbal form. Every morning I drink that, and last thing at night. This is not to give you energy and to spike your energy and then you crash it. No. There's no up and down like a tablet. You pop to feel good and want to. No. This is a conscious, clear intention. You hear the words I'm using very carefully. It must be your intention that is conscious, and you have the desire to be healthy, to be well. That's the verb to be. And this is you on you. Start, and I'm giving you my regimen. Scientifically designed for everybody. Whatever hour you wake up in the morning, whether it's 5 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever, the very first thing you take, all of this is for immune, is an alkaline glass, either half of a grapefruit or half of a rough skin lemon, not lime. Lime is acid. Lemon is alkaline. You squeeze 1/2 in a glass and you top up the normal little glass, not a whole tumbler. You top it up with water, filtered water or boiled water, and you warm that, because your lemons might be in the fridge or whatever, but you warm it, even if it was left outside. You drink that. Better if you drink it earlier, 6 o'clock, whatever. You can go back in your bed as well, you know, but that is how you start the system. What you have to understand, we have this habit in the Caribbean of just constantly eating at all different times and hours, but the body has to have rest time to take in one thing at a time. And this thing about we have to eat 3 meals a day, that's for when your energies and hormones and everything pumping in your youth and you're running and you're playing and sport. Hello, we now old. A lot of us now growing old and older. Systems have slowed down, so you now have to be cognizant. After you take that to alkaline the system, that neutralizes the acidity that comes from worry, stress, and anxiety. You don't realize that with that stress, the stomach starts to secrete more hydraulic acid than it should. So that's why some of them burp and they belch acid, they get what you call acid reflux, all of that goes on because of the worry. And the worry, the stress, and the anxiety, those all compromise the immune system. So it actually wears you down to now become more susceptible to pick up any virus. That's not what you want. So you're working in an antithetical way to what nature has designed. So when about 3 hours pass after you took your grapefruit or your lemon, half at a time every morning, then you can take fruit, a fruit drink. You see the sugar? Not good. If you even want to say, oh Lord, you know, I have a sweet tooth, take maybe a little teaspoon, less than a teaspoon of brown sugar, not white. And you take some ginger tea. This is what now you finish with the alkaline in it. This is let about 3 hours pass. Now, you know, people will tell you, oh Lord, I must eat. Oh Lord, I can't stay without eating. Wait. For the diabetics who have to be hydrated all the time, keep drinking water. You cannot go wrong with everybody, water. So I'm not giving you any remedies that you have to go in a drugstore and buy some things for 300 plus money. I'm not costing you all of that. Because we want to settle the mind. We want to bring it to that place of calming where your body can naturally respond and be boosted at the same time. So you took your ginger tea. That is the time, if you have a banana, you eat a banana. If you can't eat the banana, what you could also make with the banana, which I have been doing, is a banana punch, and you use almond milk. You don't go using all the other milks that have the lactose and whatever, because for Black people, our systems are not designed for lactose. That's why we get so much flatulence. Lactose is difficult to digest and break down in Black people. So that's why in groceries, if you are buying milk for anything, you use lactose free. And gluten is the new killer. Look at your packages and make sure that gluten is not there. They actually tell you it's gluten free. So in keeping the system lighter, you're still eating, but it's what you're eating now. So you have a banana, you can have a few cherries, that could be in your yard that you were never taking on all the time, or a guava tree that you were never taking on all the time. I'm trying to keep you all from going out to super farm and all the groceries and just thinking you have to buy these set of stuff. Also, what do I take? So sometimes I take the banana punch with, and in the almond milk that you make with the bananas, you put some flaxseed. Flaxseed they have it in packages now. Flaxseed is also extremely good for the men, for prostate. So you could put that. Also, what is an essential, now that we know in COVID what is essential, pawpaw or pine. Both of those fruits are, the whole fruit is filled with what you call digestive enzymes. In other words, when you eat those fruit, pineapple or pawpaw, they break down very easily inside your body in terms of digestion. The body doesn't have to force to dissolve it, to make it in a solute form that could be excreted easily without the older person having to force and be constipated. That's it. You could have some grapes if in season, but I'm keeping us local and I'm keeping us practical. If you have a piece of watermelon, that is also very good. Not a whole long, big slice, people. Moderation, you cut off a piece and you eat that, because that is also full with the vitamins and minerals you need for hydrating. You know how much liquid you're supposed to hydrate in one day, people? Minimum 1.5 to 2 liters minimum, but optimally, it should be 3 liters of water a day, because what they're recognizing with a lot of the COVID patients who have come into them very sick, their bodies were dehydrated. And having a Diet Coke here and a cup of coffee here and a cup of, no, that ain't cutting it. Water. So water through the day. And for me, and another thing is, and so that older people don't feel alone in this, because of the aging process and how the body changes biologically, a lot of our seniors don't feel thirsty. I don't. So I have to actually consciously, and there's even a little device that some of them wear on their hand now, that is like a timer to tell you when to go to get your water. There's a little timer, because you should every 2 hours take a little cupful, but take older people are begging you all, this is critical. You will be amazed at the list of things dehydration causes in your system, that you would be thinking, where I get this from, where I get, no. It is a begging you all, water. Then a very essential drink, which I drink now, that is part of my hydration. You all can make this. Grate your ginger, because they're selling it in all the mini marts and everywhere. Grate your ginger, mix it with some lime juice, and sprinkle turmeric, which in all the groceries and the shops. And sprinkle turmeric, and you sweeten with cane juice, and you could get that in all the groceries. That's your juice. Now you're not going to use, people, the equivalent of a pot spoon of sugar. This is just to take off the pungency of the lime and the turmeric, and of course water. You must have the water in it. And I drink one of that, a bottle about this size, every day. Every day I drink 1 bottle of that. My tea in the morning, and the tea could be any of those herbal tea, moringa, green tea, whatever, and as hot as you could take it. For those of you who are having problems eliminating and feeling constipated or bloated, especially in the stomach area, the best thing for that is watercress. And know it from experience. When you're talking about a flushing agent, watercress, here how you do it: a little saucepan with boiling water with a piece of garlic. You turn it off when it is boiled, and you drop the watercress, not a whole bundle, people. It depends on how many you're making it for. You put some, you break off some stem, and you see watercress, the more bitter it is, the better it is. And you drop that watercress in the saucepan of hot water, and you put the lid on, and you let it steep for about 5-6 minutes. And then you pour it off and you drink that, just as I told you with the hibiscus and the guava. And somebody reminded me soursop leaf is also very good. And you sip that. You would be amazed how that helps your kidney and your liver. The raisin bean, those are your two flushing agents. When you see those get in trouble, honey, well, your whole body going out of whack. Because those have to eliminate all the toxins, all the toxins. They work overnight. And anybody will tell you the liver is blood. So if you're not cleaning the blood, and that is, so you know one of COVID's thing is blood clots. So all of that, you're just keeping the system clean, you're keeping the colon free, and you're keeping the gallbladder free. This is in your hands, people. A closing on this note, so that I know you all don't have to start next week when the new month begins. You're starting from now, because now is all you have. And then you eat a meal because you have your lunch, and not one that could feed 3 people. You're eating moderately. Make sure your vegetables, fruit, vegetables. And what I have done, a major change, because you know our culture is rice. I'm now using quinoa. Quinoa, you see it all over the place. I've gone back to more vegan diet, but with fish, I will eat fish for maybe 1 day or 2 days. Steam, fry, whatever, but be gentle on the fry, better steamed. And I do that for 1 day. And it wasn't my intention to lose weight and all of that, but I lost COVID because I got COVID weight from sitting and watching all the television whole day. And I was just listening to all the different, and next thing I know, I say, wait a minute, I feel like I'm carrying somebody else, not me. And so the weight has gone. I feel free and light, and my system feels aligned. That's what you have to aim for. Align your system, and it's all good.
Wow,
so
plenty information.
I have given you all my regimen, and well, I'll just finish with this one. What you do, and all of you can see, this is for the immune system. You do what is called tapping. You stretch your hand out parallel to the ground and you tap from the shoulder. Go right down to the tips of the fingers, come back up. And you do that about 8 times each side. Next hand, tap. And then you put one hand in the crook of your elbow, you raise this other hand, and you keep as if you're pretending to hit against your shoulder blade. That is for your heart and for your immune system to boost it. You see it? It's like a jerk. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. And then you do stretches, and then you tap here. You tap here. You tap here. You're not hitting yourself to knock out there, you're just tapping. And you tap about the count to 8 4 times. And then you tap because you have all these nerve endings. You tap where my spectacles end, you tap under the eyes. And you repeat it. And then you tap on top the lip, the top lip. These are meridians that you tap in. And then you tap the chin. And then you hit here, because across here is your hypothalamus, which is all your emotions. And you keep tapping it gently. And then you tap your thoracic, your abdomen, just under the bust line, just almost above the navel. And you tap there too, both hands at the same time. And then you go down to the pelvic and you tap there too. You could do them about a repetition of 8 times each. And then you go down the side of your legs from your hips. You just straddle your legs a bit and go while you're standing. All this is standing. And you tap right down the right side, the outer side of your legs, and then come on the inside. And then keep going back down again for about 8 times. And then you tap your buttocks, all while standing, and almost like you're cupping it. All of this that I have shared with you is what I do. And it is for your immune system. It's almost like a startup. So I've shared my life. Reverend and Sharon, when you have given me and given your audience lanyards, So I hope that all who have stayed with me have really absorbed and assimilated all these tips, but we can help ourselves cure. Because and I will end with this statement, what the vaccine is doing, because I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but what the vaccine does by injecting a germ or whatever to let the body react to, what it is doing, just like how women in pregnancy don't know sometimes what is lying dormant in them, and only during the pregnancy does it come out. Like some only then discover they have diabetes, that was and they have they start having a sugar baby, which grows huge. The same way this vaccine is having an effect, because I'm dealing with 2 seniors now. One has autoimmune, and just for those of you who don't know, autoimmune, you will feel like your muscles, you can't walk up steps. You feel like somebody has actually pushed you. This now nothing to do with age and all of this. Said this is something that could have been lying dormant and you didn't know. I said, did you get the vaccine? She said, yes, she got the second jab, I think was last week. She said, but are you going outside to feed the dogs or going down the steps? Good. And when I ready to come back, can't move. I had to bawl out for my husband. My husband come. He said, well, I'm in with you. And she said, but I can't walk. And then by the night, when she went to bed good, she couldn't get up off the bed the next morning. And only when they went to a specialist did she realize the man is telling her you have autoimmune syndrome. And that's when in older years, it is more difficult when the antibodies that's supposed to attack foreign agents, it turns on your own body and it attacks your own organs. It's very, well, I don't know if it's deadly as much as it is very debilitating. And this person is in her 50s, so she's scared. But autoimmune is real. And so all these little tips I'm giving you all is to be an added booster so that you could prevent and ward off and have a robust immune system that could even withstand having whatever side effects might come out of the vaccine. So I'm now done. Thank you.
And you gave us so much information.
When it flows, I have to go with the flow.
I understand. I see the passion.
Fantastic presentation. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you so
Rouse.
much. You are most welcome.
God bless you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And it's all the passion, we can see it and feel it.
Yeah, and as I tell you, you all could feel it when I'm really in that zone and on a flow. I could just give it to you and see you all, this has no price to it. It has no cost to it. Just do it. You know,
Good afternoon, Dr. Rouse. Please come back again.
You're most welcome. You just asked me to come back again. Dr. York?
Please come back again.
Oh, yes. And yes, well, as you have said, it's also important to relax. And I often say, if music be the food of love, is that it? Play on. So we're going to take a little time to relax a little bit. All right, and we're going to start, of course, with just a little reflection and song. So give me 2 minutes and we'll start.
Thank you.
Don't go changing to try and please me. You never let me down.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
Don't imagine you're too familiar, and I don't see you anymore. I would not leave you in times of trouble. We never could have come this far. I took the good times. I'll take the bad times. I'll take you just the way you are. Don't go trying some new fashion. Don't change the color of your hair. always have my unspoken passion. Although I might not seem to care, I don't want clever conversation. I never want to work that hard. I just want someone that I can talk to. I want you just the way you are. I need to know that you will always be the same old someone that I knew. Oh, but what will it take till you believe in me the way that I believe in you? I said I love you, and that's forever. And this I promise from my heart. I could not love you any better. I love you just the way you are. I don't want clever conversation. I never want to work that hard. I just want someone that I can talk to. I want you just the way you are. Yes, and that was some relaxation. And of course, we must, that is right. So we move on because I know some people, I know they are happy to be here, but I know we might have some in between might say, okay, but we have to do the most important thing as well, and that is to give thanks. And we want to give you a vote of thanks, and the vote of thanks is going to be done by our church warden, and she is Mrs. Judy Allen Wilson. So Judy, you can go ahead.
Hi, good evening all. Good evening. As is mentioned, I am Judy Allen Wilson, the Rector's Warden, really, of the Holy Saviour Parish. And it is my honor this evening to say thank you to this distinguished gathering here on Zoom. First, I must thank God. And in thanking God, I would like to repeat what our distinguished presenter said. You know, God have a way of choosing his vessels and placing us in the right place at the right time. And I'm sure after this evening's presentation, we all, endorse that statement and have proof that it is ever so true. Thank you, God. Thank you, Dr. Rouse. To our over 100 persons who have joined us, I know some of us already left, some of them already left. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to come with us on this session. And I hope it was rewarding for you. I know it is a lot of information. It was very informative. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the message. Thank you to our moderator, Madam Moderator. At the end there, she is Madam Entertainer, Miss Sharon Wynn. Thank you to our hostess. The person hosting is one Debbie Robertson. She is our technical person. Thank you, Debbie, for making, everything flow nicely. Thank you to Dr. Reverend Wendy Kwamina York. At this time, she is the head of our parish at Holy Saviour. And we thank her, we thank God for her vision for having this event, her mission for making sure this event happened, for her persistence in having it, because, it was a little excitement coming up with, I must have something, we need to have something, we must have something. What do we call it? And she came up celebrating life. And in fact, it is a celebration of life and a celebration of all our lives. Thank you, Dr. Deacon Wendy Kwamina York. And all of this is possible through you, Dr. Jennifer Rouse. Plenty doctors in the house, and we'd like to acknowledge them, Dr. Rouse, thank you very much. This is like an awakening, is a revival, is a trigger. And as many of the persons already said, it's a feeling that there would be a need for a follow-up, because you can't start like this and leave us just so, that is not possible. God put people in a certain place to do a certain thing, and it must be done. So we thank God for you at this time, and thank God and ask him that he keep you doing what you do, what you are chosen to do, with passion, with drive, with animation, and I would like to add, with love, because without love, it would seem like work, and you were just flowing, Thank you very much. Thank you for breaking it down. Thank you for making the reality for many of us who are still in denial. Some of us maybe, Thank you for talking, the common language, making it simple. Thank you very much for sharing your special gift. And with that special gift, you have brightened and opened so many eyes. I'm seeing so many smiling faces. And when you were talking, people saying yes, and they remembering. And I would add, a very special thank you for that lesson at the end, which I probably we almost hold back. If somebody didn't ask the question, we wouldn't get that lesson about with the medicine and the nutrition and the relationship and the education and all that kind of thing. That was a course by itself. I'm sorry, but it is all in one package, and we're taking it. And of course, there must be a follow-up, because you open a can of worms here now that have questions that need to be answered, because people are going back and they're going to have questions, and many asks that you return. So we would have to talk to you again, I would also like to recognize at this time our many persons here, especially I want to recognize some people as far as Jacksonville, Florida. They're smiling, they can send a little wave, and there are persons in other countries, make out some names from other parishes. Thank you all for taking the time. Thank you all for coming. Different parishes in Trinidad. I am sure it was a real enlightening, uplifting, everything, a good experience. The questions were there, the answers were there, and we didn't run out. So in closing, thank you all for joining us. May we all continue to be safe. We have to observe the protocols, wash hands, wear our masks, keep the distance, get vaccinated if possible, and it's almost 7 o'clock, there's a curfew from o'clock tonight. Some of us, hope you don't have to leave your house, because it's from 7 until 5 in the morning, and we will do all of this without fear. Thank you all, especially Dr. Rouse. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless us all.
Yes, and thank you so much, Dr. Ross. But we're not finished. We're coming to the end, but we're not finished, because we're leaving on a nice, relaxing kind of sort of feeling. And we're going to have a tune again, this time by Brenda Fraser. I am sure Dr. Rouse knows Brenda Fraser. Yes. So we are going to have Brenda Fraser now doing a tune for us. Brenda.
Lizzie?
Brenda, you there?
We're hearing her. We just heard her.
I thought Rev was putting it on. Rev, I sent it for you.
Oh my gosh. My apologies.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well,
if my people will humble themselves and pray, if they seek my face and humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins. I will hear from heaven and heal their land. Lord, heal our land. Father, heal our land. Hear our cry and turn our nation back to you. Lord, heal our land. Hear us, O Lord, and heal our land. Forgive our sin and heal our broken land. Lord, we bow our knees and humble ourselves and pray. Lord, we seek your face and humble yourselves. Turn from your wicked ways. Father, in your mercy, forgive our sin. Father, in your mercy, come heal our land. Lord, heal our land. Father, heal our land. Hear our cry and turn our nation back to you. Lord, heal our land. Father, heal our land. Forgive our sins and heal our broken land. Forgive our sins and heal our broken land. Thank you, Jenny. That program was so beautiful. Love you, love you, love you.
Sharon, unmute.
Oops, sorry about that. Yes, thank you so much, Brenda Fraser. And we really need our land to be healed.
You're welcome.
And we are now going to have our closing prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, let our prayer in your sight be as incense, the lifting up of our hands as the evening sacrifice. Give us grace to behold you, present in your word and sacrament, and to recognize you in the lives of those around us. Stir up in us the flame of love, which burned in the heart of your Son as he bore his passion, and let it burn in us to eternal life and to the ages of ages. Amen.
Amen.
May the God of hope fill us with all joy and peace in believing through the power of the Holy Spirit. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us bless the Lord. Thanks
be to God.
I really want to thank you all for a wonderful evening, and do have a restful night. And Sharon, I hand over to you. Dr. Rouse, we did say that you would have to come back. All right. So, and it has been confirmed by many.
Sharon, unmute.
Yes, and right, yeah. And now, of course, as the theme is celebrate of our lives. And we're going to, and you all can join in as the music is playing. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. 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 He is risen, he is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen, he is risen. Come on and celebrate the resurrection of our Lord. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. He is risen, he is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen, he is risen. Come on and celebrate the resurrection of our Lord. And we go on, let's try. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate Jesus, celebrate. And he is risen, yes he is, he is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen, he is risen. Come on and celebrate the resurrection of our Lord. He is risen, he is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen, he is risen. Come on and celebrate. Come on and celebrate. Come on and celebrate the resurrection of our Lord.
Thank you, Sharon. Thanks to everyone. And we had people from all over the world. I saw quite a few people from South. I think Agnes is still on. From Siberia, Agnes, lay minister from down south. Saw somebody from in the States,
Mary,
different parts of the States.
Mary and yes, that's from Jacksonville.
Yeah, there was another person as well.
Carol from Long Island.
Yes, Carol from Long Island.
Foreigners.
Yes, yes.
Yes. A wonderful, wonderful, wonderful
Lynette,
session.
Lynette, where are you from? Lynette?
St. Aidan's.
Oh, St. Aidan's.
Okay.
Patsy Ramsden, I saw her on earlier too, from Arima.
Yes, Yvette, I'm seeing you.
Yes, and there's Yvette Harrison. She is from what parish?
Yvette?
First time, yes, Yvette Harrison. Yes, nice to have
All right.
you. Yes.
Anybody who wants to say hello to us, because we kind of close off now, you could unmute your mic and say hello to us, or to
free up, as they say, free up.
Doc is still on.
Caroline.
Jenny Allen.
Hi all. Hi everybody.
Who is that? And who is that? Wendy O'Brien? Who is Yvette Long?
Hi, everyone. Everyone, it's so wonderful to be here. It is so wonderful to be here. I totally enjoyed this discussion. Yes,
I agree. 100% agree.
Oh my gosh. Thank you all.
And I want to leave everybody quietly.
Yes, feel free.
Until our
Feel
next
free.
session.
We usually hang out